hold myself to, as well as any elected official that we have. We need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with the humanity. And that's the way we should actually choose our leaders and our elected officials. So, with that being said, I want to bring up the moderator for the night, Ms. Erica Davis Stradlin, and you'll hear from me afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the 2018 state debate between Jarvis Johnson and Randy Bates. Representative Johnson. I truly feel honored to have been asked to be the moderator for this evening by Mr. Tim White, as I know anyone could be in this position, so I'm very thankful to have this opportunity. Tonight with me, I have the former mayoral debate chairman for the League of Women Voters, Harris County, who will be assisting me during this course of tonight's debate. The role of the moderator. As moderator, I will demonstrate absolute fairness, neutrality, and dignity as I represent the nonpartisan standards of the Super Neighborhood Committee. To the community, the format presents introduction, opening statements by both candidates, with the order of speaking determined by drawing a number closest to the number 1, and closing statements in reverse order from the opening statements. Audience questions will be written on cards that were distributed as you entered tonight. Please raise your hand if you did not receive one. Once you have written your questions, please wave your hand and give to one of the following members at the table for screening to avoid unanswerable, illegible, or duplicate questions. The form has the ability for you to circle which candidate your question is for. Some may choose for both candidates to answer. I will allow each candidate to answer each question. After each opening statement is made, questions will be asked from the audience. Applauses should be held until the end of the forum, leaving more time for questions. Issues, not personalities, are to be addressed. No personal, abusive questions are to be asked. Speeches from the floor will not be permitted. Each person in attendance is allowed one question and one follow-up question. Must be placed on the form given. Please know I have the right to rule on all questions. The same question may be asked of each candidate with a 2-minute response. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond, and the order of responses will be rotated for each question, or a different question will be asked. Rebuttal is 30 seconds. Only if need, the debate has several stages. Therefore, I may transition to cross-questioning. Opening and closing statements will not exceed 3 minutes. It's against the law to disrupt a public meeting, and if you overstay after you are asked to leave, you can be charged with criminal trespass. So, let's make tonight an educational opportunity for all of us and follow the rules that govern this debate. At any point in time, if this debate for any reason becomes unmanageable, I have been given the responsibility by the committee to stop the debate. Are there any questions? Thank you. Let us begin. He has a bag that has the numbers 1 through 10. The candidate who receives the number closest to 1 will begin with an introduction and an opening statement for 3 minutes. We will begin with Randy Bates, beginning with 3 minutes with an introduction and opening statement. Follow Shaw, and he will do the time. You may begin.
Hello, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to those who organized this. I would like to thank my wife who is here. John Legend could not say it any better. I love all of her with all of me. No matter where I'm losing, I'm always winning with her. 35 years of marriage. Glenda, please stand. I am running for the 139th because the 139th is my home. After I graduated from Thurgood Marshall School of Law, we bought a home in the 139th. For 30 years, we have worked in the 139th, first as youth minister at our church, and later on as board of trustee member at Lone Star College. We're working with the board. We put a $15 million college campus right there on Victory. That college is educating our youth. It's early college, it's workforce development, and it is also traditional college. When I was a youth minister, we had 3 kids I want to talk about right now. Adrian Thomas, his dad was Johnny Thomas. He was a barber there on Little York. You would be surprised to know if you knew him that he is in law enforcement in Chicago, Illinois. Nobody would have thought that about Adrian at the time. One of those young kids by the name of Patrick Austin, he's a deacon in my church. Another one of those kids, he has a successful business, and these signs that you see all around the neighborhood, that was from his company. My sister-in-law in 1987, we took 25 kids from this neighborhood to Yale University for a youth conference. It was the first time most of them had left Texas, and it was absolutely the first time that some of them had been on an airplane. Now those 25 kids are productive citizens, and I want to do more like that. Let me say this, I care about this community, just like you care about it. Those of you who come to meetings from time to time, why are you here? You're not here because you want something out of it. You're here because you want to make this community better. This is my community too, and I want it to be the best that it can be. Thank you.
Good evening. How's everyone this evening? Let me first say to you, thank you for being here. It's so good to see people like yourself in the audience, because this is the process by which we have to go through every couple of years to make sure that we're picking the representation that is best representative of ourselves. And so I'm glad that you're here to get the information that you need to receive. To the organizers of this particular event, let me say to you, thank you. Our community perishes from a lack of knowledge. Oftentimes people come out and they talk about, they put up a lot of signs, but you never know what they do. They talk about things that in ambiguity, but they never can demonstrate what's real. And so I'm glad that we're able to do this tonight. I know there are a lot of candidates here tonight, and I hope that all of you have an opportunity of talking to these voters, because it's important that you have an opportunity to demonstrate your platform. Let me say to all of you, thank you so much. I'm your state representative for District 139. This is my very first term, and I want to say to you, thank you. You elected me to be your state representative, and during that time, I went to a state house that was very one-sided. There were 95 Republicans and 55 Democrats, which makes it very difficult to pass any bills. But I'm proud to say that I have wrote, co-authored, and sponsored over 19 bills that passed in the State House of Legislation, and I'm very proud of that fact. I wrote over 65 pieces of legislation, but 19 of them passed. I will say this, I ran on the platform I was going to bring vocational ed back to our schools. Not every child in District 139 is going to go to college. In fact, only 20% of the children in District 139 actually go to college, therefore leaving a lot of our other children to go into the workforce unskilled and into entry-level jobs that are paying them $7.25 an hour. Unfortunately, many of those individuals stay in that job for many years, and they're raising families on those jobs, and that makes it very difficult. I wrote a bill, House Bill 374, that mandated that TEA and the Texas Workforce Commission look at the jobs that needed to be in the state of Texas, because in the year 2025, we're going to have more jobs than we will skilled labor. And so what we're going to do is tackle that. And how we're going to tackle that? By putting vocational ed back in school. House Bill 374 put vocational ed back into our schools, which is very important. And because of that, we're going to make sure that children have an opportunity. Children are going to have an opportunity of getting the chance to go into the workforce. And when we keep them in the workforce, that means we're keeping them out of the prisons. When we keep them in the workforce, we keep them out of the life of crime. So I thank you. I'm so glad that you're all here, and I hope that you get the information that you need here tonight. Thank you so much.
First question, addressed to Candidate Bates. Give us your top 3 focus areas if elected to office. You have 2 minutes.
First of all, public funding of our schools. In the last session, a school system that already was underfunded, a school system that's in the court right now for being underfunded, $1 billion was cut from that budget in the last session. Our state representative agreed with the Republican governor, and he voted to approve that $1 billion cut in public education. Secondly, workforce development. People need jobs. People need jobs, and certainly that's the second thing, and that's very, very important to me. And lastly, our neighborhoods need to be safer. They absolutely need to be safer. No more unfunded mandates for the police department, taking them off the street, causing them to respond to our calls late. Something that troubled me in the last statement that the representative made, he made the statement, we have to go through this process every other year. Let me tell you, it's a privilege to go through this process every other year. And if it were not for a process like this, we might not be seeing him, because he is the invisible representative.
Well, I have to, because the gloves have come off already. When someone says that you have to go through a process, you have to go through a process. It's not a process that you simply can choose to be the elected official. You have to go through the process. Let's not get caught up with verbiage, and let's not play word games. The fact is that I voted for the budget. In the Texas State House, it's very important that you understand it's 95-55. The fact is that you have to learn how to compromise, because had we not compromised on that budget, you would have found that the Republicans would have shoved vouchers down your throat, down our throat, which meant that vouchers, they would have started funding private schools. And so politics is all about a compromise. And I don't want my opponent to say that I voted for the budget, because in the budget, either you're going to get vouchers, which they're going to take money out of public schools and then give it to private schools, and that's not what we want, because then we're going to end up losing our schools, we're going to end up losing our neighborhoods, because when you lose your schools, you lose your neighborhoods, and as you've seen, that's what's happening right now. So I hope that we don't get caught up in verbiage, but we look at what's real. We have an opportunity right now. This is not the time for us to be fighting against one another. This is an opportunity that we need to be taking out the Republicans so that we can overtake the House, so then we can pass good legislation as opposed to looking in-house and fighting one another. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you. We have a 30-second ask for a rebuttal.
That bill was going to pass anyway. I acknowledge that. But sometimes people need to know where you stand. And one thing I know about the people in this room is right is right and wrong is wrong. And we need to stand for right. My first vote at Lone Star College was a no vote. And that was because they was going to pass a budget that did not include this system. I told them I'm not voting for no budget until we get transportation, a college campus in this district. Yes, it passed anyway, no doubt about it. But they respected me, and we ended up building a campus here as a result of standing up for it. No, it's no.
I'm sorry, I have to ask if all candidates can remain within the time frame. Thank you. Representative Johnson, You sit on the Urban Affairs Committee. What have you implemented for District 139 serving on this committee? You have 2 minutes.
Well, we don't implement anything from the State House. We introduce bills, and then from there, from those bills, we try to get those bills passed. And we don't, it's not based on situational opportunities, but it's based on protection for our neighborhood. In the State House, in my very first legislation, I introduced a bill that put disaster recovery fund in place. That's a bill that didn't go anywhere because the state came back and said, we can't do that. Because if you put this bill in place, then the federal government won't give us money. Because our funds have to be depleted in order to receive the next batch of funds. But I said we have to have funds available because right now, and some of you have received a newsletter or a press release that I passed out that fought against GLOW, which is our land commission that dealt with the hurricane that we're dealing with right now, Hurricane Harvey, and how we make sure that we spent over $12 billion. $12 billion we spent already, and people are still out of their homes after 5 months. And so that disaster recovery fund means that we don't need to wait on the federal government to bring us money. We already have money in place. We have an $11 billion rainy day fund. It's called the rainy day fund for a reason. And it rained a lot. And the fact is that the governor chose to sit on that money. From a Texas State House, we have a 95 to 55 ratio of Republicans to Democrats. When we put more Democrats in House, we can start telling the governor what to do with money that we have put aside. That money is set aside for people just like you who've been affected by the hurricane. But through my bill that I put out for the disaster recovery, those are the types of bills that we need put in place.
Thank you. Candidate Bates, what will you do to bring community reinvestment dollars back to our neighborhoods and how?
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, do you realize that over $18 billion of contracts are awarded by the state of Texas every year? Do you realize that a lot of that money is not making it back to our neighborhood? Well, that's a problem. That's a problem. And the first thing I'm going to do when we get to Austin is having a conversation with the Lieutenant Governor. We will bring funding back to this neighborhood. That's exactly what we'll do. We're not fighting against each other. She said, this is not the time to fight. Let me say this. I'm fighting for you now. And I'm going to fight for you in Austin. So this isn't about a non-democratic process. We deserve better representation than we're getting. I'm offering you a choice. I will fight for you in Austin, and I will fight you here. By the way, I put a $15 million college campus on Victory, so you don't have to take my word for it. Go look up the street. By the way, which has my name on it. So you don't have to take my word for it. Go look up the street. By the way, which has my name on it.
We will now hear from State Representative Johnson.
Actually, this is a fight. The fact is that this is my very first term. Mr. Bates and I have already been in the same race. We were in the race the last time. I won and he lost. For Mr. Bates to be able to run against me again means that he's holding me accountable, and I'm okay with that. But what he's doing is he's saying he's against the fact that I passed vocational ed. He's against the fact that I'm working on a bill that makes sure that children with CPS can be able to be adopted by their family members as opposed to sitting in a cold cell. Mr. Bates is against, what he's saying is he's against everything that I have done to make sure that children are able to go to college, children have an opportunity to go into a career plan, that we want to hold police officers accountable. So it is a fight. The fact is that I'm spending every dime that I have to make sure that you understand what's going on in the community. It's not enough just to simply say, hey, I'm going to fight for you. Give us a plan for what you're going to do, because the plan is laid out. As your state representative, I have laid the plan out. I want to make sure that you understand exactly what I'm going to do in the last term that I've already served and then the next term moving forward. We have a plan for what we're going to do, and I hope I have the opportunity of expressing that so that you understand we got a program that we're going to move forward with to move District 139 in the right direction.
30-second rebuttal.
No, I'm not against any of the things you said. I just believe we can do a better job at it. This vocational thing he's talking about, let me tell you about that. It's not vocational back in schools. It's vocation being added to a list of things that people can do. And so he added something that they can do at the same time he cutting their budget.
The next 2-minute question. Representative Johnson, what will you do to impact affordable housing and how? 2 minutes.
Affordable housing, we have to figure out what affordable housing means. Affordable house means a house that you can afford. There's some of us that can afford this much house, and there's some of us that can afford that much house. We have to figure out what that means. What am I doing as a state representative to make sure that we're bringing affordable and right type of housing to our neighborhoods? Every day we deal with tax credit properties. That's the only thing that the state representative deals with is tax credit properties. You have the 9% tax credit, and you have the 12% tax credit properties that come into our communities all day long. One of the things that I did fight against, I will be very honest with you, I fought against the property on Cross Timbers and Yale because they wanted to build nothing but low-income housing. But all of us desire to have grocery stores in our neighborhood. All of us desire to have restaurants in our neighborhood. All of us desire to have a retail center in our neighborhood. We're tired of Family Dollar and liquor stores. But when you continue to build the same type of housing in your neighborhood, you're going to get what you already got. We have to stop being afraid of allowing the new type of development that needs to attract the type of residents and the type of retail. Businesses follow rooftops. They're looking at who is going to make money and who has money to buy from my retail. I want to be able to build houses and neighborhoods that retailers will be attracted to. A retailer will be attracted, and then from there, our young people have an opportunity of going to work. And if our young people have work, then that means our young people are not involved in criminal activity. And so I want to make sure that we're bringing the right type of development to our homes, to our community, and we're not being afraid of it. We're going to do away with gentrification. I introduced a bill that dealt with the gentrification because I dealt with the fact that a bill that I introduced that dealt with senior citizens over a certain age. I will stop and be respectful.
Thank you. Candidate John Bates, what will you do to impact affordable housing and how? 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. We will increase the number of tax credits that can be used in affordable housing. Also, I believe that this neighborhood has a right to know what's coming in the neighborhood before it gets to the neighborhood. Because a lot of times we'll wake up one day and we'll see somebody pouring concrete and they're building something and we have no input, we have nothing, no input in it at all. And I believe, as your state representative, I will ensure that before anybody starts pouring concrete, right there on DeSoto, there's a concrete plant there. Did y'all know that was going to be there before it got there? No, you didn't. But you woke up one morning and you saw it there. And so one of the things that we will, would you please quit interrupting me, sir? Well, then you wait your turn. And so one of the things that we would do is to make sure that the community knows what's going on before it happens. Hold community forums that will give the community an opportunity to have questions and have an input and influence on what's coming into our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. As I'm learning, it is a rebuttal for 30 seconds, but give me 1 minute if you don't mind. It has the potential to become unruly. But let's keep in mind, we want to keep the community informed. And I feel that this is the most balanced, equal opportunity to give each candidate. So let's try to encourage our candidates to be unruly, okay? Not to be unruly. A little humor. Okay, 30-second rebuttal with Representative Johnson. Thank you.
And I'm certainly not going to be unruly, and the fact is that I want to make sure that you get all the truth. During political season, people can say whatever they want to say because they know that you may not be able to have the information. The fact is that, number one, the property on Cross Timbers in Yale was before my time. It was voted on before I even got there. And so now that I'm here, I brought it to the attention of the community. The batch plant on DeSoto is only being proposed, and I've already contacted all of the civic clubs and all of the super neighborhood councils that are out there, and you can ask them. They have already received a call from me. So I want to make sure that you know the truth. I don't want my opponent to tell you something that's not true. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay standing for me, Representative Johnson. You voted to reduce Medicaid funding by $2 billion. How would this reduction affect those receiving benefits?
I did not vote to reduce Medicaid funding. I voted for the budget that was put before us. And again, I will tell you, the fact is that we don't have ceremonial votes. I'm not going to vote. The problem right now is the President of the United States is playing to his base. And so he's doing things to his base, not realizing that he's the president for the entire United States of America, all of us, not just one or two of us. In the State House, you don't have an opportunity of simply giving away a vote. I'm not going to vote for the fact that it's just a ceremonial vote or to simply come back to you to say, you know where I stand. You're going to know where I stand. The fact is that this is a compromise. In the State House, you have to know how to compromise. We're in a State House that's 95 to 55. And when you're dealing with that, they can either run right over you or they find an opportunity to negotiate with you. I found opportunities to negotiate with all of the state of Texas, with all of the Republicans and the Democrats to make sure that we're on the same page. And when you look at the vote, you'll see that the vote was 95-55 Democrat to Republican. And so at the end of the day, we're working to make sure that we don't get run right over. The fact is that we had a special election or a special session. That special session was put in place by a governor who simply wanted to do things to hurt Democratic people all across the state of Texas. They wanted to go back in and put SB 4 on the bill. They wanted to go back in and deal with school finance to put vouchers back on the table. That's not what we wanted, and we fought diligently to keep those things off of the bill. And so that's what we're doing. It's not about voting for anything, but it's about negotiating, and that's what the State House is all about. Thank you.
We will now have a second rebuttal.
It is about negotiation, and it is about voting. At that first board meeting, it was going to be a tax increase. I voted no. It was 8-1 then. It was 8 Republicans, and I was the only Democrat there. And I voted no. And they said, why did you vote no? I said, because unless citizens in Acres Home have a car, they can't go to any of our campuses. And until that's changed, I'm going to keep voting no. And as a result of that, I gained their respect. And as a result of that, we built not one, but 2 campuses in the 139th. One next door to Carver High School and the one up the street.
Two-minute question. Representative Johnson, HB 1842 passed in 2015 legislative session, allows the TEA to take over school districts when they have one failing school for several years. Do you agree states should have this power? If not, will you work to repeal?
Well, that's what TEA is all about. TEA runs all of the schools in all the entire state of Texas. 1842, number one, predates me. I did not have an opportunity of voting on 1842. But I think Representative Dutton, who introduced that bill, did it for one thing, one reason only, was to hold accountable school boards in all ISDs across the entire state. You had an opportunity to make sure that we had equal services at all schools. The fact is that many of our schools didn't have the same resources, we didn't have the same dollars, we didn't have the same opportunities for our children to succeed. The fact is that there were schools out there where children were graduating from these low-performing schools, and not one time did that child who went from elementary through high school had a certified math teacher. And yet, they're still holding that child accountable without holding the school accountable. So at the end of the day, 1842 was put in place to hold school districts accountable. I don't necessarily believe that we should be celebrating the fact that, look at all of the other schools that have passed, but we continue to allow certain schools to fail. And those schools have always historically been in underserved neighborhoods. Those underserved neighborhoods continue to fail while the others are doing well, and we're not doing anything about it. So you have to hold those school districts accountable to say, either you're going to serve all children the same way, or we're going to shut you down. And so at the end of the day, I want to make sure that HISD, Aldine ISD, and Spring ISD has a plan to ensure that every child, no matter their income level, no matter their race, has the same opportunity to succeed and then go wherever they want to go. Otherwise, we need to make sure we hold them accountable and move them out and bring people in who will provide the services for our children.
I will restate the question. HB 1842 passed in 2015 legislative session allows the TEA to take over school districts when they have one failing school for several years. Do you agree states should have this power? If not, will you work to repeal? 2 minutes.
Yes, I will work for repeal. I believe in local control. I don't believe that Austin should be telling us what to do. I believe we, as the voters, ought to hold the boards accountable. And if they're not bringing our schools where they need to be, we need to vote them out of office. So we don't need Austin to tell us how to do our business here. I have no problem with them monitoring us. I have no problem giving us reports so that we know what's going on. But I believe in local control, and I believe the control lies within us, the voters.
30-second rebuttal.
Local control means that you're controlling every aspect of your school. Mr. Bates just simply said he agrees in local control. The fact is there is no local control when it comes to ISDs because TEA is the Texas Education Agency, runs every school district in the entire. We don't tell school districts what to do, but we hold them to a standard because they take standardized tests all across the state of Texas. While I respect what Mr. Bates is trying to do, but at the end of the day, truth is truth. Our children are not to be played with, nor of our communities. Local control is not with TEA. TEA is a state agency, and they run the ISDs in all the states to make sure that they're providing the same resources. And all I'm advocating for is the same resources for all of our children all across the state of Texas.
Okay. Next 2-minute question. Candidate Bates, what are we going to do about gun laws in Acres Home? This is the question from the audience. What are we going to do about the gun laws in Acres Home?
I'm not sure what the question is. I mean, I heard what you're saying. I didn't know you were going to repeat it, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay. What can you do about gun laws?
I will attempt to answer a question that I fully don't understand what the question is. What I will say is this. I believe that we ought to repeal open carry. I don't like the idea of open carry. That's a gun law. that's in the state of Texas, but also here. One reason why I am opposed to open carry, think about the police officers that come into our neighborhood. Now think about if they're called here and someone shows up with a pistol strapped on their side. Unfortunately, there are some police officers who are not upholding their duty. And they're shooting first and asking questions later. And that disproportionately affects our kids. Black and brown kids are the victim of violence by police officers more than any other groups. So I just don't like the idea of law enforcement coming into a neighborhood, but yet at the same time, we've got guns on our side. Other than that, I'm not sure what the question was.
Representative Johnson, you have 2 minutes to respond.
This is Texas, and in Texas, we love our guns. Everybody has a gun. The fact is that we all need to have a gun in order to protect our own property. You have that right. Each and every one of us have a constitutional right to carry or to have a gun. The fact is that you should not have that right to carry that gun wherever you go. You should not have that right to carry that gun openly. You should not have a right, because at the end of the day, you leave it up to law enforcement to determine whether someone is good or someone is bad. And oftentimes officers are looking at people of color and determining that they're already bad, because their only interaction with a person of color is the time in which he's already come to the house for a call to service. That's the only interaction. And so I fought diligently against open carry when I wasn't a state legislator, while we, as a member of the Homeland Security, constitutional carry came before my committee. And one of the things that I said is absolutely not. I will not allow constitutional carry. Constitutional carry is the law that allows any and everyone to carry a gun without having a license. You don't have to do a background check. You don't have to do anything. You just get to carry a gun. And we all know who that law is going to be applicable to and who is not going to be applicable to. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell anybody that they cannot possess a gun in your home to protect your property, but I certainly will fight adamantly against anyone who has the right. I own Aunt Bee's restaurant, and I didn't want anybody coming into Aunt Bee's restaurant with a gun open so I can see it, because at the end of the day, I'm thinking you coming in to rob me. And I didn't want any of my patrons to be worried about whether or not somebody had a gun or not. So as a business owner, I don't want any constitutional carry or open carry in our state.
Thank you. We will have a 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you, Representative, for agreeing with me. We do agree that we should not have open carry. No question about that. And I have a license to carry a concealed gun. And I think all of us should have the right to carry a concealed gun. But on another matter, I'm not talking about dismantling TEA. The question was a very narrow question, not a broad question. The narrow question was whether or not we would give them the opportunity to close our schools.
The debate has several stages. I will now transition to cross-questioning. You have 1 minute to ask candidate Bates your question.
Didn't know that was part of the platform. Mr. Bates. Yes. You have decided to run against me, and I've heard you on many occasions say, because I haven't done anything. I have been in office for 1 year, since January of 2017. During that time, how many times have you called my office to talk about an issue, to discuss a bill, or to look at how we can work together to make District 139 better?
Well, I'm not running against you. I'm running to represent the people in this room, first of all. No, I have not called. And yes, you are absent. When Hurricane Harvey came, you was absent. No, I didn't call your office. The constituents of the 139th called me, and they asked me to run to represent them because they felt that they were not getting proper representation, because they felt that promises made to them were broken, because they said that the truth was not being spoken to them. And that's what I promised. I would tell you the truth, I would keep my promises, and you can count on what I will do is what I say I'll do. And I won't be an invisible representative.
We have a 30-second rebuttal.
I purposely brought pictures and let you know the things that were being done when as a state representative. During Hurricane Harvey, I served over 20 families. I've taken them shopping. I brought my friend down, Michael Baxton, who was a national comedian. Kelly Rowland with Destiny Child gave us the money to take our family shopping to buy food, clothing, and shelter. We've done a whole lot of things. I brought them because pictures speak 1,000 words. And it's easy to say what someone is not doing, but the fact is that I've never heard from Mr. Bates. He's never called me. He's never said, here are the concerns by the one or two people who have called me who said they want me to run against you. At the end of the day, let's make sure that we're serving the people and not ourselves.
Let me remind the community, please, pauses should be held until the end of the forum. Candidate Bates, would you please ask your question for Representative Johnson? 1 minute.
Yes, Representative, why did you promise to pay for 200 backpacks at $6 each for the back-to-school program right here in this neighborhood? And then when it came time to pay the money, you did not donate the money like you said you would and buy the backpacks for the kids going back to school.
Mr. Bates, you pulled something out of nowhere. Number one, contractually you're obligated to spend some money for some backpacks that no one has ever sent me a letter. If you can bring me a letter and put it up on the screen to show me that I said that I would pay for some backpacks, for who? I have no idea. But in that time, in my 1 year since I've been in office, and I'm gonna repeat this again, the fact is that I've held 2 job fairs that has served over 750 employees. I've been able to serve over 1,500 senior citizens by having my annual Christmas, Valentine's Day, luau, and senior proms to say to my seniors, I thank you and I love you. Making sure that we've done the things that we said we were going to do. I'm not going to let somebody sit up here and tell me and pull something out of the air and say I did something that you have no tangible evidence to say that I said that I was going to do any of those things. So please, let's stick to tangible, provable facts as opposed to just throwing things out there like that. No, I have never said that I would pay for backpacks and didn't do it. I served over 1,000 children since I've been in office. Thank you. I'll finish that up later.
Representative Johnson, you have one more question that you're allowed to ask. 1 minute. Yes, rebuttal 30 seconds.
My tangible evidence is Miss Catherine Dorsey, because she was the person that was told that the backpacks would be purchased. And not only were the backpacks not purchased, this is the 139th. The representative did not even show up on the date that the backpacks were given out. I would like to think that if you're going to represent a community, and certainly represent folks in the community that need your help, that you would at least come. And even if you want to argue that you didn't make the promise, you should have.
I don't even know what date that he's talking about. I'm not going to even dignify the fact that even Ms. Dorsey may have said that. At the end of the day, the fact is that from January 9th until August, I was at the State House. Every single day, I was at the State House doing the people's business. And so there are going to be many people out here that will say, you didn't show up at my Civic Club meeting. I was at the State House doing your business. Don't try to say I didn't show up when I'm doing your business at the State House. I will challenge anyone to say, let me see a letter that said that I personally said that I would give the money. Or was it someone from my team or someone else? But did you talk to me, is the question.
Thank you. Back to questions. Candidate Bates, what are your plans to impact Acres Home? 2 minutes.
You know, first of all, you're in office for 2 years. Really only about 6 of those months in those 2 years are you actually in Austin. The other year and a half, you're here in the district. And the first thing I'm going to do is to not just come around when it's election time. I will be here between election time. That's not the only time that you're going to see me. And I sit in these meetings, and I hear what the community needs, and I will work for what the community needs. I will keep my word. I will not break a promise, and I will be here when you need me.
Two-minute response. What are your plans to impact Acres Home?
What we're already doing, thank you, what we're already doing right now is there are several things that need to happen. And as I've said, I can count the number of job fairs that we've already hosted. And by the way, many of you have a flyer that says on on February 17th, we will have a job fair at Fallbrook Church, making sure that our young people are going to work. The fact is that I'm working with Texas Southern University. I'm working with the Acres Home Chamber of Commerce as we look at a plan for the Acres Homes community. There is no plan for our communities. They just simply allow development to happen, and that's how we get gentrified, and that's how we lose our communities. We're creating a plan to make sure that we're looking at how we make sure development needs to take place. When development takes place, proper development takes place, then our neighborhoods are safe from the developers who will then try to come in and take it over. How else I will impact the Acres Homes community is to make sure that many of our children who have been impacted by the police officers will understand the bill that I wrote. The bill that I wrote that simply said that police officers will be held accountable for the actions that they take against unarmed men or women who have been shot or unjustly incarcerated. I also will deal with the fact that our children who are dealing with the CPS, on April 7th, I will have a adoption fair that will deal with the hundreds of children that are aging out of the CPS care system. The CPS care system means that when children age out, 98% of them go to prison. Those are our children that look like us. Those are the ones that are in prison. 98%, and that's 1,000 children annually that are aging out of that system. But through this adoption fair, we're hoping to stop those children from aging out that can then become productive members of society and understand what family is, because hopefully someone will adopt those children and allow them to be members of a family unit. Thank you.
See, that's the problem. The problem is there is no plan for our community. There's plans for Sunnyside, there's plans for Fifth Ward, there's plans for Third Ward. They have plans. Why don't we have plans? I think it's an indictment. And let's not just count the 2 years that he's been in office. Let's add the 6 more years that he was in office as your city council. Were there plans brought in then? He had an opportunity then. I'll let you judge on whether or not he lived up to those responsibilities. We don't have a plan because we don't have leadership.
Next question. Representative Johnson, Out of the 19 bills you authored as a freshman candidate, which one of the most challenging and which one was the most rewarding?
It's like asking you which one of your children you like the most. You can't answer that. At the end of the day, I will tell you the one that I think will have the most impact on our children, and that is House Bill 374, which brought vocational ed back to schools. It's not simply something that's thrown out there. It's something that we're saying to our children. Through House Bill 374, here's what happened. We're working with the Building and Trade Union. Because of the Building and Trade Union, through House Bill 374, on December 19th, we had 19 young men that went to trade school. By going to trade school for 3 weeks, those young men were able to then be placed in an apprenticeship, by which now they're making $15 an hour. Next year they'll make 17, the next year after that they'll make 22, the next year after that they'll make $25 an hour. On this past Monday, we had 30 young men and women that went to trade school based on the bill that I wrote to make sure that those same children will go to trade school and go into an apprenticeship and receive the same things. We'll have another trade school program that will open in March. I'm so very proud of that bill because we're putting young people to work who young people otherwise would have never had an opportunity of going into the workforce, because our system says either you go to college or do you go to prison. And so through my vocational ed bill, we're making sure that our children are going to work. And so I'm very proud of that. And every bill that we have written has been an arduous task, simply because you're dealing with 95 Republicans, you're dealing with 55 Democrats, and so it makes it extremely difficult to get all bills passed. But the most important aspect of it is you have an opportunity of reaching across the aisle and creating a negotiation and a camaraderie and a spirit of understanding where they will vote for your bill so that you can get things passed. And that's how we got House Bill 374 passed.
30-second rebuttal.
We're not making sure of anything if you don't put any money in it, okay? Now, right up the street at Lone Star College, we have 17-year-olds who are graduating from high school one day and they're graduating from college the very next day. We're talking about 17-year-olds. We're talking about those 17-year-olds can then go right now and get hired at the fire department, making $28,000 a year. And after 9 months, they go up to $40,000 a year. That's putting people to work, and that's giving people a livable wage and not a minimum wage.
Next question. Candidate Bates, if you are elected, what will you do for our seniors? What legislation will you promote to support our seniors?
Thank you. If you've spent any time in Southern nursing homes, which I have, you will see that the conditions there are really not what you would want to be if you were in that situation. And we need to have stronger enforcement of those who run these places. You either take care of our seniors, or you take care of those who are in nursing homes, or you need to be put out of business. And so what I would do would be pass legislation that would have stricter penalties for those who do not take care of our seniors or those in nursing homes.
You have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. One of the bills that I introduced was a bill that dealt with senior citizens who over a certain age would have all their ad valorem taxes wiped out. Because we want to make sure through this bill, the idea behind this bill was to stop gentrification. Senior citizens are afraid when new property or new homes are coming in, they're afraid of the values. They're afraid of the value of the home is going to push me out and I can't afford the home in which I live. Well, through this bill, we're making sure that you don't even have to pay your ad valorem taxes for senior citizens. That's a bill that I've already introduced. Now, did it get passed? Nope. Because the state said, how are we going to pay for it? But the idea is that we put it in their head. We get to come back to them, and we get to say to the legislation again, We're going to introduce this again. So in the 86 legislation, I will make sure that I introduce this same bill again, and we're going to get more support behind it. But also in respect to my senior citizens have done so much for me so that I stand before you today. They stood in the gap to where I don't have to sit at the back of the bus, but many of them did. They had to deal with much of the racism that I never had, the overt racism that I never have to deal with. And so at the end of the day, I thank my senior citizens. Not simply saying thank you, but by acknowledging them, giving them their flowers while they're still here. So 4 times a year, I have a senior citizen event. I just had an event on Friday, which we had over 400 senior citizens. It was a simple Valentine's Day event, but we brought in Walgreens that did high blood pressure screenings. They did glucose screenings. We gave away pill boxes to make sure they can organize their pills. We do a Christmas party to make sure that they get the things. So it's just not a party, but it's an opportunity for them to be able to receive some of the knowledge and some of the information that's out there, and then some of the things that should be owed to them based on the things that they have given to us. And I do that. And so we've already served over 1,500 senior citizens in my 1 year since I've been a state representative.
30-second rebuttal.
As chairman of the board of Lone Star College, we passed a policy that said once you're 65, your taxes do not go up anymore. Now that's different from saying the percentage would not go up. Because if you kept it at 4% and your property started being worth more, you would pay more taxes. That's not what we did. We said whatever the amount of taxes that you're paying, we would freeze it at that number. So it didn't matter if the property value of property went up or not. That's something that we already have done.
Representative Johnson, what do you feel are the biggest challenges of the district? 2-minute response, please.
Some of the largest challenges that we have to deal with is purely, you got crime, how do we address it? We address crime by bringing economic development. How do we bring economic development? We have to bring better housing. We have to bring more housing. As I've already said, businesses follow rooftops. When you start looking at that, more and more people are moving out of our neighborhoods than are moving in. And the reason why? Schools. They're saying our schools don't have the resources. They're saying our schools, if you look at the number of children that should be at Wesley that don't, because they're going someplace else, they're going to Oak Forest or they're going someplace else. The fact is that our schools should have the same resources as an Oak Forest, but they don't. And so we have to create equity across the board. So our school system has to do a better job. The fact is that the state needs to do a better job. Yes, the governor has taken out $1.8 billion from education. Lieutenant Dan has taken out so much money from and will not put it back in and wants to put it into vouchers. The fact is that through some of those votes that we made, we put $700 million back in to the budget for the year 2019. We will have $700 million extra for 2018-19. No, it doesn't get us back to where we need to be, but it does close the gap. And that's what we have done to make sure that we're making sure that our education system for our children are taken care of. Infrastructure is an issue, but from the state level, we're only dealing with the highways and byways. So we want to make sure that we continue to deal with that. The fact is that we have to do a much better job of contracting. As the state representative for District 139, I had a contracting fair in Austin in which I brought in the TxDOT, the jails and Health and Human Services to make sure that I wanted to see the contracts that they had and wanted to make sure that they were giving contracts to minority contractors. We had over 50 minority contractors that showed up, and those individuals that were there had an opportunity of bidding and receiving those contracts. Those are the things that we're going to continue to work on because we have to bring jobs back to our district.
Thank you. We will have a 2-minute response.
The need that I see in this area really comes down to information and resources. Information and resources. That's what the community's been asking for. That's what the community has been begging for. I've sat right in those seats during a super neighborhood meeting when somebody from the city of Houston was talking about the complete neighborhoods and was talking about how the other neighborhoods are moving forward with the plan. And they were talking about how we're left behind. There are people here that, one lady I'm looking at right now, who's a very active person in this community, but she didn't know anything about it. And so information is not being given to us. That's one thing. Resources. When Hurricane Harvey occurred, did anybody get any help on filling out a FEMA application? Did anybody call for on our behalf to the state of Texas to get money to our areas? Let me tell you what I did. I'm a former national president of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity. One of my brothers in Atlanta sent a tractor trailer of shovels, cleaning fluids, and everything here to Houston. Another one of my chaplains in Los Angeles sent a tractor trailer of food, clothing, and other stuff here. We gave them out. Then, with the help of Brother Willis, we took two pickup trucks to our fraternity house, and we brought those goods and services right back to this neighborhood to disseminate. If I could do that as a normal citizen, and I was not your state representative at that time, I can only imagine what good we can bring to this community if you give me the honor of being your state representative.
30-second rebuttal.
Resources out there, resources are given. The greatest thing about Acres Homes is the fact, for the most part, Acres Home didn't even flood. And I'm proud of that fact. I'm not saying everybody didn't. We were impacted. But the fact is that I got on the phone and I called Mr. Tim White and I said, how was your neighborhood? I called Mr. Gaucher and I said, how was your neighborhood? I called Pastor Rutledge and I said, how was your congregation? I called everybody from every walk of my community and said, how are you looking? And the fact is that we fared pretty good. And because then from there, I then called, and those that did, I called Tanya DeBose, and she said, I got some families that I need help with. There are those families right there that we serviced. There are those 20 families that we serviced. So the fact is that information is there. It's our opportunity to access the information to then disseminate it.
I would like to thank you both for the debate this evening. Candidate Bates went first. State Rep will be the first with closing statement.
Let me again say thank you to everybody. I do feel the tension in the room. I do feel it, and I hate that it's here, but at the end of the day, it's healthy. It is healthy. It's like working out. Because sometimes when you got to go work out, you don't like it, you sweat, you feel bad, but at the end of the day, you feel the results later. I've been in office as your state representative. We have gotten a lot of things done. And during that time, I've already said that we've had 2 job fairs that have served over 750 potential employees. We've helped over 80 people during Hurricane Harvey. We're doing the adoption fair. We've held 4 seminars at the Acres Home Chamber of Commerce that dealt with child support, that dealt with interaction with cops, that dealt with taxes, and it dealt with the federal surplus program. Since being in office as a state representative, we went from January 9th till May. Then we got called back for a special session. And the fact is, and we got called back in July, that special session held us there for another 30 days. And so when we came out in August, that's when Hurricane Harvey hit. I traveled over 2,500 miles in this state because as a member of the Urban Affairs Committee, we had to assess where the damage was. We had to know what was going on. And as your representative, I represented District 139 with pride, and I made sure that your voices were heard. The fact is that we know where the money is. I hope that you read my op-ed that was in the newspaper and that was posted on my website so that you understand the issues. We got to stop playing with our people when it comes to the money that needs to be disseminated to our communities. And I'm so proud of the fact that we were able to get that done. I will end with by telling you, by traveling those 2,500 miles, we got a lot of services for many of our people. The last two things that I'm very proud of, and I've already said it, and I'll say it again, is the fact that we were able to get those apprenticeship programs in our schools and in our community. If you know somebody who needs an opportunity to go to work, tell them to call my office. We're going to be able to get them jobs. Go to jarvisjohnson.org, go on the website, and you'll be able to sign up to either be a part of the apprenticeship program or you'll be able to be a part of the job fair. Now, through this job fair, we're partnering with Career Gear, we're partnering with LaunchPoint, we're partnering with Texas Workforce Commission, and we're partnering with the WorkSource to make sure that if you don't have a resume, we're going to get your resume done. If you don't have clothes, we're going to make sure that you have the clothes in order to go get the jobs that you need. Because we want you to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Because at the end of the day, this is not just a regular job fair where you just go fill out an application. I said to all of those partners, we want jobs. And they said, we want qualified applicants. And so we want to make sure that that happens. I want your support to go back to the 86 legislation. Because at the end of the day, we have a point that we have to make. We have to expunge records from individuals who may have done crime, but we want to make sure that they can come back into our society and be productive members, not continue to get recycled back into the prison system. I'm Jarvis Johnson. I'm your state representative for District 139. I want you to send me back so we can do some great work. Thank you.
Candidate Bates.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and taking time out to listen to us discuss the issues. I stood on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. And that's the motel where Martin Luther King stood on before he was shot and killed. I stood where he stood. I looked out where he looked out. And it's not lost upon me why he died. He died because he was there protesting for garbage workers to get a proper treatment. His whole life was about helping those less fortunate. And he died for that. And I believe that the measure of a person's soul is not by how they treat the rich and the privileged, but how they treat the poor and the discarded. And I want to have a healthy soul. I am here while you're here, and that is we care about this community. No, I was not born in this community, but I got here as quick as I could. And I love this community just like you guys do. And I will work for you. You will not have to worry about if I'm in a room whether or not I'm looking out for my self-interest or the interest of you guys. You'll never have to doubt about that. You can be assured I will provide sober leadership, and I will provide necessary leadership. My name is Randy Bates, and I want to be your state representative, and if you give me that chance, you will not regret it. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to recognize every pastor and clergy leader in the audience. If you would, please stand. Thank you. My dad didn't stand. Pastor Davis, thank you. Also, any candidates in the audience, if you would please stand. Thank you for being here. Please note that any issues that were discussed this evening, you have the rest of the remaining time to speak with our candidates. I am Erica Davis Stripling, and it was an honor to be your moderator this evening. God bless you. We will now have the benediction with Pastor Perry.
Let us bow. Most gracious and heavenly Father, once again we thank you for the opportunity to assemble here tonight and to hear the questions and answers that come forth from these two candidates. Master, now we just ask that you just bless each and every one. Bless all of the people here that is in this room. And Master, now we ask for traveling grace as we leave this place. Never from your presence. That you go before us, we'll make it to our destination safe and sound. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.